afternoon. Let's try this again. Good afternoon. That's much better. That's much better. Thank you. Let me start by asking you a question. Of all the bosses that you've ever worked for in your life so far, starting from your first boss to your current boss, how many would you call truly great leaders? Raise your hand if your answer is 0, and don't worry, we won't tell your current boss that you raised your hand at 0. Raise your hand, please. That's about 562 of you. Raise your hand if your answer is 1. 1,154. If your answer is 2, 256. Anybody more than 2? A handful of you. So what's the average in this room? Somewhere between 0 and 2? Yeah? We've asked this question for 15 years around the world in rooms like this, and we are yet to get a bigger average. Similarly, you ask people in any country, anywhere in the world, if they are happy with the political leadership of their country, and most likely the answer is no. And this is despite the fact that a staggering $80 billion a year is spent around the world on leadership development. In spite of this massive investment, whichever way you look at it, the picture of good leadership is really bad. The question is, why? Because for the longest time, we've actually been confusing leadership with followership. What we've been calling leadership all along, trust me, is actually following and pleasing people. And it's time now to set the record straight and acknowledge the fact that duplicating the best practice behavior of others is actually followership, not leadership. And, shockingly enough, leadership cannot be democratic, it cannot be all-inclusive, it must be top-down, it must be autocratic. Sounds terrible? Unbelievable? Let me explain. This confusion begins right from when we are young and continues throughout. Parents love kids who listen to them and obey. School teachers love and reward kids that do exactly what they say without asking too many questions. I remember when I was in university, I took a course in international relations, and this professor had a pretty unique take on US-Russia relation during the Cold War that most students disagreed with. But he would say, look, I don't expect you to agree with me. I don't want you to agree with me if you don't agree with me. I want you to think independently, and I will not penalize you for your political opinion. So say what you want in the exam. Luckily, I had a good mentor who told me not to believe a word of what he was saying and to replicate in my term paper exactly what he said in class. I took the advice, and I got an A grade. But I was only one of 2 people that got an A grade, because everybody that thought independently and wrote what they really wanted to got B's and C's. Yeah? Sorry. Employees, when you ask them what kind of a boss do you like, and they describe things like, I want my boss to be kind to me, I want my boss to be nice to me, I want my boss to understand my needs. In other words, I want a boss who gives me what I want, not necessarily what I need. Bosses quickly realize that and become pleasers, especially if their leadership performance is measured through employee engagement scores, right? So we make them pleasers. Even in boardrooms, when a CEO presents a new, audacious, bold strategy to create something that doesn't exist yet, the first question the board asks is, what's the best practice here? Where's the McKinsey report saying that 10 companies around the world have done it successfully? Exactly. Whichever way you look at it, we confuse leadership with followership. We confuse leadership with pleasing people, and we need to change that. So to do that, what we've been doing is a little experiment. In 27 countries, we've been asking people a few questions. You know, we ask them in country after country, what is common with these, amongst these famous leaders, and from a list of attributes to choose the 3 top commonalities. Now, these attributes, the 5 red ones, are consensus building, democratic, I love you all kind of attributes. The blue ones are autocratic, my way or the highway attributes. And number 11 is a mix of both. Guess which ones are turning up in the top 3 commonalities in country after country in our survey? You'll be surprised. All the blue ones are ending up at the top. Funny, isn't it? We've also been asking the question that, do you agree with the following statement? In today's 24/7 connected, totally transparent, and breakneck speed economy, a significant amount of top-down autocratic leadership is needed to achieve breakthrough success. And 72% of our people so far have said they agree or they strongly agree. What this means is that while we love to reward pleasers and followers, we've actually been admiring top-down autocratic leadership all along. What this is suggesting is that Steve Jobs might not be the anomaly, he might be the hidden rule rather than the exception. So where does this leave us? Does this mean that we all now have 007 license to kill and we can shoot anybody that doesn't agree with us? Unfortunately not. Not so soon. In fact, if you look at the 2011 Arab Spring, it should be a great reminder that position, power, and force is not even an option anymore. Yeah? So why did people listen to Nelson Mandela when everybody in South Africa was thirsty for blood and wanted an eye for an eye when he came out of prison, but he said, let's go for forgiveness and love? Why did people follow him when they were told, when he was doing the exact opposite? Why did the people of Singapore not only listen to but also worship Lee Kuan Yew, even despite his autocratic leadership behavior? And why did people go along with Gandhi even though he differed significantly from the popular notion at the time of fighting the British with guns and knives? Why did they listen? And here's the answer. Because unlike brutal dictators like Stalin and Hitler and Idi Amin, deep down, their people respected them, loved them, and knew that they have the best interest of the people at heart. In other words, people like Gandhi, Mandela, and Lee Kuan Yew had earned the right to use top-down leadership. So the question now becomes, how do you, in today's 24/7 connected, totally transparent, and breakneck speed economy, how do you earn the right to use top-down leadership, particularly when people are so empowered and leaders forever exposed and naked? To answer this question of how to earn the right, we will need to look at leadership differently. We will need to redefine leadership away from being a title or a position. We will have to redefine it away from following and pleasing and best practice, and say that leadership, to understand what leadership is, let's go back. What did Gandhi, what did Lee Kuan Yew, what were Mandela, what were they trying to do? They were trying to create a tomorrow that is much better than today for their people. And that is leadership. Leadership does not begin when you win an election. Leadership does not begin when you're appointed to an important position where you can tell people with your position what to do and what not to do. Leadership begins when you close your eyes and imagine vividly the better future that you want to create for your people. And in that sense, anybody can close their eyes. Are you in the habit of closing your eyes and imagining a better future just for a few people or for the whole world? It doesn't matter. Are you in the habit of closing your eyes? Because all great things are created twice. First, in the imagination of the leader with eyes closed, and then in real fact. So that is leadership. Now, believe what you see on the screen at your own risk. Yeah. There's a huge problem if you believe that this is a good philosophy for life and leadership. Why? Because the moment you close your eyes and imagine a better future, you've seen an exciting picture, but others haven't seen it. You are ahead of them, right? And from then on, your constant companion is going to be resistance, resistance, and resistance. People will tell you in 1,000 ways why you shouldn't do what you do, and if you get started, they're going to put you down. So, what is then the main ingredient of leadership? The main ingredient of leadership is to stay the course and not give up. Pleasing would require you to give up and listen to your people, but leadership is about not giving up. So if leadership is about not giving up, what is that force that keeps you from giving up? And that force is not a skill, it's not a competency, it's not a personality trait. That force is deep within us. It's called intrinsic, deep, almost spiritual energy. So leadership is the art of harnessing human energy towards the creation of a better future. And this energy, this leadership energy, cannot be learned in business school classrooms, reading and discussing case studies and theoretical models. If you want to discover this long-lasting energy, the energy that did not leave Mandela for 27 years of wrongful imprisonment, he still didn't give up his dream of the Rainbow Nation. How did it last 27 years and beyond? Not through competencies, not through skills and personality traits. He became crystal clear about two things about himself: his values, those that he would never compromise, and his purpose, what he was here in the world for. So the first thing that needs to happen when you want to discover your long-lasting leadership energy is to understand a set of values that are that you will absolutely live your life by every day. This determines your identity. As you become clear about your identity, it clashes with day-to-day situations in life, and that produces energy. And that's the reason why you act. And eventually, you've got to create this energy, which is at the intersection of your values and life situations, into fearless purpose. This is exactly what Mahatma Gandhi did. He first became clear that his values were integrity, humility, truth, and nonviolence. As his awareness about his values deepened, he realized that he was angry with the way people of color were being treated in South Africa and with the way people in India were treated in their own country. His anger became so immense in the end that he decided to make it into a purpose, a fearless purpose, and that was to obtain independence for India, but in a non-violent way. Because his purpose was derived from his values, he became completely fearless. And he went on despite the resistance and despite the hardship. Now, his purpose and values, he arrived at them very slowly, very carefully, with a lot of thought. And because of that, he became autocratic about his values and his purpose, but remained compassionate, humble, and respectful to his people all along. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the key to earning the right to use top-down leadership, which is to be autocratic about your values and your purpose, but to be humble, to be respectful, and to be compassionate with people. It is totally possible to do both at the same time. I can be totally in disagreement with you, but I can fully be compassionate and fully be respectful to you at the same time. This Lee Kuan Yew quote actually sums it up very nicely. If there is a good reason why it is no, it must remain a no, but the man must be told politely. You lose nothing by being polite. So, ladies and gentlemen, in summary, in today's day of breakneck speed, top-down autocratic leadership is required. But thanks to 24/7 connectivity, people are more empowered than ever before, and leaders forever exposed and naked. So, to earn the right to use top-down leadership, be autocratic about values and purpose, but be and always remain compassionate at the same time with people around you. The future, ladies and gentlemen, belongs to the naked autocrats of the 21st century. Thank you very much.